The division of South Africa. 1. The seeds of division. In the early 21st century, South Africa was a nation still grappling with the legacy of apartheid. Despite the end of institutionalized racial segregation in 1994, the country remained deeply divided along racial, economic, and cultural lines. The African National Congress (ANC), which had led the fight against apartheid, now faced the daunting task of governing a nation with vast inequalities and simmering tensions. By the 2030s, the cracks in the fragile unity of South Africa began to widen. Corruption within the ANC had eroded public trust, while economic disparities between the wealthy elite and the impoverished majority grew starker. Unemployment soared, particularly among the youth, and service delivery protests became a common sight. The dream of a rainbow nation seemed increasingly out of reach. 2. The rise of regionalism. As the central government struggled to maintain control, regional leaders began to assert their autonomy. The Western Cape, with its predominantly colored and white population, had long been a stronghold of the Democratic Alliance DA, the main opposition party, frustrated with what they saw as neglect and mismanagement by the ANC-led government. The Western Cape began to push for greater self-governance. In KwaZulu-Natal, the Zulu Nationalist Party, the Inkatha Freedom Party (IFP), gained renewed support. The IFP, which had historically been at odds with the ANC, called for the recognition of Zulu cultural and political rights. The province, rich in cultural heritage and economic potential, began to explore the idea of secession. Meanwhile, in the Northern Cape and parts of the Eastern Cape, where mineral resources were abundant, local leaders and communities grew tired of seeing their wealth extracted without adequate reinvestment. They too began to demand greater control over their resources and governance. 3. The fracturing. By the mid-2040s, the calls for regional autonomy had grown too loud to ignore. The central government, weakened by internal divisions and external pressures, found itself unable to hold the nation together. International mediators were brought in to negotiate a peaceful resolution, but the divisions were too deep. In 2047, after years of negotiations and referendums, South Africa was officially sectioned into 4 semi-autonomous regions. 1. The Western Cape Republic, comprising the Western Cape and parts of the Eastern Cape. This region became a beacon of economic stability and progressive governance, with Cape Town as its capital. The Western Cape Republic focused on tourism, technology, and sustainable development. 2. The Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal. This region, centered around Durban, embraced its Zulu heritage and established a constitutional monarchy. The Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal became a cultural hub, with a strong emphasis on traditional values and economic self-sufficiency. 3. The Northern Territories, encompassing the Northern Cape and parts of the Free State. This region became a resource-rich federation, with Kimberley as its administrative center. The Northern Territories focused on mining, agriculture, and renewable energy. For the Republic of Gauteng, the smallest but most economically powerful region, Gauteng retained Johannesburg and Pretoria as its dual capitals. This region became the financial and industrial heart of the former South Africa, attracting investment and innovation. A new era. The division of South Africa is not without its challenges. Border disputes, resource allocation, and the movement of people between regions created tensions. However, over time, the regions began to find their footing. Each region developed its own identity and governance structures, tailored to the needs and aspirations of its people. International observers noted that while the division was born out of conflict, it ultimately led to a more stable and prosperous Southern Africa. The regions, though independent, maintained close economic and cultural ties, forming a new kind of federation based on mutual respect and cooperation. Epilogue. The legacy of division. By the late 21st century, the story of South Africa's division had become a case study in the complexities of nation building. Scholars debated whether the division was a failure of the post-apartheid vision or a necessary evolution in the face of insurmountable challenges. What was clear, however, was that the people of the former South Africa had found a way to move forward, each region carving out its own path in a rapidly changing world. And so, the Rainbow Nation, though divided, continued to shine, each color distinct, yet part of a larger, more intricate tapestry. 1. The Western Cape Republic, comprising the Western Cape and parts of the Eastern Cape. This region became a beacon of economic stability and progressive governance, with Cape Town as its capital. The Western Cape Republic focused on tourism, technology, and sustainable development.